Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, and Masters Week is indeed upon us. I think even people who aren't even really that into golf, they get excited and they tune in for Masters Week. And I know that anyone who loves to quote unquote speculate on sports in any form, in any way, loves to get in there for this Masters Week each year. So I wanted to do a bit of a free Masters preview here. And for that, no one on earth better to do it with than a young man who follows every pro golfer on earth, studies the data from the Corn Ferry Tour, the Live Tour, the Euro Tour. Truly a sick puppy with the golf. It is our own Skylar Hoke of ETR Golf fame. Skylar, how's it going today? Happy Masters Week.
Yes, happy Masters Week to you too. Thank you, Adam, for having me on. I mean, this truly best 4 days of the year, hands down. And I mean, for the public, right? They've gone from the March Madness straight into their Masters pool. They're full betting all the way. So no better time than what we have us.
On today's show, we are going to take a high-level look at the Masters. We'll go player by player through as many of the important guys as we can get to. We'll get into their history here and recent form, tons more. What we won't be doing today is talking through the DFS slate, projections, ownership, leverage, cheap plays, low-owned plays. We will be discussing all that on Wednesday's show for ETR Golf subscribers with myself, Skylar, Cody Main, and Sam Brott. If you are not a subscriber to ETR Golf yet, you will not find a better time to try it than now. We are running a rare sale, promo code Augusta20 on any weekly or monthly purchase at ETR Golf. That includes our projections for every golfer, odds to make the cut, ceiling, ownership, Skylar's value report, aka his favorite cheap golfers, the show I just mentioned, tons more. Check out the content schedule on the site for more. And again, Augusta20 on checkout for 20% off any weekly or monthly ETR Golf sub. Also, golf sims for both Showdown and Classic DFS are live on Solver. This is an add-on. Check to ETR Golf. Check out the link to Solver in our subscribe tab for details. We put a ton of time and frankly a ton of money into developing sims for golf. Really excited to use them here for the first major, both Showdown and Classic slate. Last thing, we've partnered with our friends at DraftKings for the Masters. If you don't have a DraftKings account, deposit $10 with promo code ETR and you'll get a $10 Masters Millie Maker ticket on top of it. If you do have a DraftKings account already, you can still deposit the $10 using the link on my Twitter or in the show notes or in Discord, and you'll get that $10 Masters Millie Maker ticket on top as well. All right, let's get into it here with the Masters. First thing I wanted to note here, Skylar, I think generally on most weeks in golf, the public overreacts to course history. By course history, I mean how players have fared at this course over the last 1, 3, 5, 10, 15 years, whatever. We have looked very closely at the data in course history, and Augusta is the number one course on tour in terms of correlation, massively ahead of number 2, Bay Hill, tied for 2, Bay Hill, and TPC Scottsdale. So we'll be mentioning course history plenty here. I don't know, Skylar, if you think there's something about the course that makes course history so sticky here, but yeah, anything on course history before we get into it here with the golfers?
Yeah, I think it's specifically the around the green and on the green play that is just so hard to master. I mean, you've seen people like a Phil Mickelson, like a Bubba Watson, even golfers, Adam Scott, that have struggled on the greens throughout their career have been able to find something at Augusta, but it took them some time to be able to develop that experience. It is not taught very well from just being able to watch on TV, the undulations, the firmness and the speed. That part just cannot be reproduced pretty much anywhere. So I think that is the one skill that just takes time to navigate. I mean, we haven't had a debutante win in 30 plus years, right? We've had a couple recently finish runner up, but that's really to me the true reason why.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so clear in the data, like not quite 2x, but almost twice more correlation between course history and predictiveness at Augusta than any other course on tour. So what we're going to do here is just go through the contenders one by one and we'll go in order of betting odds. Number 1, of course, is Scottie Scheffler around roughly plus 400, 4.5 to 1 or so. Last 3 times the Masters for Scottie, 1st, 10th, and 1st. I mean, for people who haven't been following, Scottie is almost on like a Tiger-esque run over the last 2-3 years or so. The odds here, Skylar, implying that he wins this event roughly 20% of the time. And in terms of what he's done lately, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it feels like after some struggles with his putter last season, despite being really dominant, struggling with short putts, 4 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, Scottie has gained strokes putting in 7 of his last 8 events. He was the 3rd best putter in the field at the Houston Open. So extremely short odds here, Tiger-esque kind of odds here. Skylar, what do you think about Scottie heading into the Masters?
Yeah, the big thing, right, Scottie, in 2025 was a random ravioli injury incident on Christmas Eve when cooking a dinner for his wife has kind of caused him, some, I guess, rough patches for the Scheffler that we've seen for the last 48 months, right? So, Houston seemed like the time that he really felt like himself, right? Almost chased down Minwoo Lee to have that victory there. Now, you can't really pick apart somebody that has unbelievable irons, is gaining off the tee, accurate and distance wise. And then if you can flip it with the short game, you can't poke holes. Where you can really is what are his true odds to win. Realistically, I don't think he's in the same form where he won in 23 and 21. Both of those times he had multiple wins in lead up. And not that Scottie can't flip the switch and still do it right again. Even last year, he had 3 wins in lead up to the Masters. In 2023, he had won it before when he didn't defend himself. So I think there's still a bone to pick at 4-1 for me. Like if you're playing in pools, of course, like Scheffler is hard to pick against if you're not getting into the ownership game. But truthfully, 4-1, like I am not going there.
Yeah. So Skylar mentioned the cutting incident. He was like cooking on Christmas or something like that and cut his hand. Like some of the most valuable hands in the world. Why is he cutting? Why is he cooking? I have no idea. But anyways, he's cooking and he cuts his hand, missed some time to start the season. But yeah, he's been back and he's been back for 6 events. In those, he has gone 9th, 25th, 3rd, 11th, 20th, 2nd. So like, it's not like he's playing poorly here. And I think the market has mostly shrugged it off. We do have a injury report up on the site right now. We have it all the time, the injury report, and we have removed Scottie the injury report. So I don't think it's going to be a factor there. One thing about the 4-1 I wanted to note here, Skylar, is that the field is not that big, right? On a normal event, we get 140, 150 golfers. This is 96 golfers, but there are some guys here who are just dead. Like if you've won before, you get in. So you get old guys who have no chance, like, Bernhard Longer, Vijay Singh, Fred Couples, Jose Maria Olazabal, bunch more. You also get guys who just suck now who have won before. Mike Weir, Zach Johnson, Danny Willett, Patton Kazire is here. There's also some amateurs, right? Like 5 of those. So out of the 96 golfers that are here at the Masters, I don't know what you think. Maybe 15 to 20 of those are drawing dead. So really, it's only like an 80 golfer field. And that's how you start to get into the 4-1 range, even though we're adding in all the live guys we'll get to in a second. But yeah, any more thoughts on strength and size of field here at the Masters?
It's definitely a bigger one than what we typically have at the Masters. Last year was 86, so 10 more golfers, but still top 50 in ties make the cut. They got rid of the 10-shot rule a couple of years ago. It's not as drastic of a cut as what you'd see. And I agree with you. I'd say 15% of the field is probably dead weight. You're going to have some of those guys maybe make the cut, but be not fantasy relevant at all. So yes, of major championships to win, if you just zoom out on, not the pressure and what, the whispers are at Augusta National, this is the easiest major championship to win every year.
Okay, let's go to the number 2 choice in the betting market, Rory McIlroy, around plus 650. Rory has never won the Masters in 16 trips here. I feel like he's tried everything, every prep schedule, every strategy. Last 5 times Rory's come to the Masters, 22nd, cut, 2nd, cut, 5th. Do you think there's something about the course? Do you think there's something that prevents Rory from winning here in 16 tries? Or it's just golf, there's a lot of randomness, and he's run bad to not win here in 16 times?
I think it's mental. I think it's 90% mental. The physical stats, that you look at, like, Rory should be dominating here, right? Maybe his power isn't as relevant compared to, a Bay Hill type of event that he has dominated, a US Open, which he has won, in the past. Like, or competed in. But I mean, he's got every skill in the bag. He's 1A to Scheffler's 1B right now, right? And you could probably put them closer than ever in the last 3 years right now. But he's now playing events in lead up, trying to figure out, I think, just to get his head away from, I have to tee up the Masters and I've never won the green jacket. So kudos to those that like just want to look at the profile and just say that golfer is going to win at those odds. But I think there's a lot more things going on inside his brain that gets him into spots down the stretch where he plays uncharacteristically bad golf when he should go out there and win tournaments. So he's won twice at 2 courses this year that aren't power heavy courses, Pebble Beach, and then the Players Championship. That was a big time win at TPC Sawgrass. Now more than ever, I would trust him, but I still don't think those odds are enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 5 times this year. As you mentioned, he's won twice. He has a 5th at the Houston Open a couple weeks ago, 17th and a 15th. So Rory's been playing really well. I don't know if it's true, but like in my gut, I always feel like Rory and Scottie have the same ceiling, but Rory's range of outcomes is way wider. Like Rory has missed cuts here. I couldn't fathom Scottie missing the cut here, but we do have volatility score in the projections for anyone that's checking out our projections there. And I'm certain when projections come out, we're shooting to put those out shortly after tee times are released on Tuesday, that Rory will have a higher volatility score than Scheffler in our projections for sure. Third choice is one that, I don't know, man. People may have forgotten about him. Jon Rahm, Rambo, 14-1. You know, Rahm was one of Scottie and Rory's biggest rivals on the PGA Tour until he left for LIV, and that was December of 2023. I feel like Rahm regrets it. You know, honestly, I haven't been following LIV closely at all, so I don't know, but I just feel like he's such a competitor and he regrets it. Last 5 trips to the Masters for Rahm: 45th, 1st, 27th, 5th, 7th. So you're the sicko that follows LIV. I don't follow LIV at all. What's been going on with Jon Rahm since we last saw him?
To me, it's not all that impressive. He should be clear and far away the best player on LIV. And it took him, I think, to like his 12th tournament last year to get his first win. He picked up 2 and 3 starts to close the season there. But so far in 2025, it's a 2nd, 6th, 6th, 5th, and 9th. And you talk about small fields, right? 48 golfers or 50 golfers on LIV, 3 rounds, no cuts. Sure, maybe a little bit more volatility in shorter tournaments. But a player of his caliber should be winning those clips, in my opinion. I mean, he played on the DP World Tour once this year. He missed the cut. He did not win any DP World Tour events at the end of last year. He is not nearly in the form of Rory McIlroy. Scheffler, had the injury, so you could maybe make, parallels there a little bit. But major championships last year were bad for Jon Rahm, including withdrawing from the U.S. Open with an odd foot injury last year. So I don't know. I don't feel confident in him coming, especially when the books are giving 0 discounts.
Yeah. It feels like some of the LIV guys like went over there, were like, you know what? And I don't blame him. I got my money. I'm just going to coast it in. Like, Dustin Johnson comes to mind or whatever. I feel like Rahm really wants to win. He's probably grinding really hard to try to play well here, but playing high level competitive golf is definitely a good thing for the process. So yeah, I was a little surprised here at 14-1 on Jon Rahm, but yeah, there's stuff in my head of like him being unreal on the PGA Tour before he left. Fourth choice is Collin Morikawa at roughly 16-1. I feel like Collin's been around for a while, but he's still only 28 years old, already won the PGA once, already won the British once. Morikawa has played the Masters 5 times, 3rd, 10th, 5th, 18th, and then 44th in his debut. So pretty strong results here for Morikawa, or at least in line with what we consider his skill level to be. What do you think about Morikawa coming into this year's Masters?
So if you put on a piece of paper all 4 of these guys we talked about from a statistical profile and covered up their names, and then put the odds next to them, I really think an overwhelming majority would be selecting Collin Morikawa as the best value. Us as analysts and viewers and people that watch golf, you've seen him definitely have some Sunday scaries, right? I mean, he hasn't been somebody. He just lost to Russell Henley late at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, blew 6-shot lead at the Century the year before. Like, he hasn't had the best Sundays. But those two major championships, people still like to poke holes in those because both of those were during COVID times where there wasn't that many fans in attendance. So it's been an odd career, but man, from a consistent ball striking standpoint, it's Scheffler levels, right? And he's now shown a extremely high ceiling with his putter too, likings for Augusta. I mean, from just a pure fantasy trust standpoint, I mean, Collin's floor to me is super high just because of what that iron play brings to the table. So I wouldn't fault anybody. It's just, do you trust him in contention on Sunday?
Yeah, for sure. And certainly, like, you can see just raw talent on Collin Morikawa is through the roof. Fourth choice again is 16-1. Speaking of youth and raw talent, the fifth choice is Ludvig Åberg at 18-1, 25-year-old Ludvig. Now, played college golf here. You know, it's not like he's some DP World Tour guy. Ludvig has won twice on the PGA Tour in just 21 PGA Tour starts. One of those was the Genesis this year, a signature event a couple months ago. However, that said, Skylar, he missed the cut at Valero just last week, also missed the cut at the Players. So that was like, man, how can he be 18-1 at the Masters after missing the cut at Players and Valero? But as often with golf, it's a contest of how far can we zoom out, and 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 rounds of golf is extremely, extremely volatile. So what do you think of the missed cut last week for Ludvig, and any other thoughts on him?
He's probably been the most frustrating player for us this year at ETR, right? He has been, not projecting the best because he has small samples, but of extreme volatility on both ends, like we've talked about. And then he had the sickness after being the first round leader, the first go at Torrey Pines. Mm-hmm. And then he comes back there and had a true rabbit out of his hat Sunday back 9 to win that event. The miscut at the Players, I mean, it bothered me in the sense because I think he was a good play there and had a nice position, but Sawgrass is such a course that can happen. I'm way more concerned at the Valero miscut. I mean, he's the odds-on favorite there. That shouldn't be an event he is messing around, not playing the weekend at. However, what he intrigues me as, right, he's a runner-up last year on debutante, really the only one that gave Scottie some noise on the back 9 last year. And also, I know this is really kind of focused on the overall, outright selection, but Ludvig Åberg is priced 3rd in daily fantasy this week, in between Collin Morikawa and Rory McIlroy. And with this type of form, he's going to be under the radar for a lot of people. That zooming out, there is such a ceiling there, and his ball striking can be so good that he makes a lot of sense in plays like that.
Right. So I think the thing on Åberg is expectations for debutantes, in other words, first time at the Masters, is very low. And so he exceeded expectation by so much last year, finishing 2nd in the Masters last year, that the course history stuff is going to look strong, even though it's one event. It's one Masters that he got 2nd in. It was his first, and so he's going to get a lot of credit for that. So certainly an interesting spot here for Mr. Åberg. Also at 18-1 is Xander Schauffele. Missed a ton of time early this season due to a rib injury. Played the first event, then returned on March 6th. Results have not been spectacular since he returned. 3 events, 40th, 72nd, and 12th. What do you think about Xander's rib injury? Would you consider him 100% healthy now heading into the Masters?
100% maybe a stretch, but the underlying numbers were really, really good at the Valspar. His approach was as good as it's ever been, and that's normally a sign that ball striking is there. He also has participated in the Sim Golf League, TGL, quite a bit. So showing that if he's playing that, he's probably not risking, a rib injury there. So I think there are signs of him being close to fully back. Burying the lead a little bit. Right now, he holds 2 of the major championships to his name, U.S. Open and Open Championship winner last year. To have the ability to hold 3 crowns at one time and not really coming in at popular stakes at all is quite amazing. I think it might present itself an opportunity to really take a chance on him this week because, major championships, you'd have to go all the way back to 2022 at the Masters to find the last time that Xander Schauffele hasn't finished inside the top 20 at a single major. So to me, I think there's stock in zooming out once again, similar to Åberg. I think priced around a lot of these guys, they're just going to be more under the radar than their overall resume really deserves.
Yeah, Xander won the PGA and the British last year. So yeah, if you zoom out to last year, as Skylar's suggesting, you could make a really good case that Xander was the best player on tour last season, not named Scottie Scheffler. Like, Xander was absolutely unreal. It's just since he's come back from injury, he hasn't played well. Last 5 Masters results for Xander: 8th, 10th, cut, 3rd, 17th. He also had a 2nd place finish in 2019. So I think course history for Xander is reasonably solid here. And yeah, if he wasn't hurt, if he played and he was playing better coming into this, odds would certainly be way, way shorter. All right. 7th at 20-1 is the man that I know the public is going to be all over, Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, we need to hire Bryson for our YouTube team. Bryson is up to 1.8 million subscribers on YouTube. And I didn't think this was really possible. Goes to live and might be the most popular golfer in the world. Like, people love Bryson, even though he went to live, which was like a pretty unpopular move for a lot of people to do. Bryson won the US Open last year, also won the US Open in 2020. I know the public's going to be all over him. I'm sure that we're not going to have as strong a projection as the public will want us to on Bryson when projections are ready. What do you think about Bryson coming in here, Skylar?
Yeah, I mean, he's a really hard one to wrap your head around, right? Because I think he has this boyishness in him that he wants to compete more than the other guys do on live, and probably has found himself in better positions because of that. Last week in Miami, he was heading into Sunday, the leader by 2 strokes. He actually blew it on Sunday, ended up finishing 5th. That's his 3rd top 10 of the season. But I mean, you saw him runner-up at the PGA Championship, 6th at the Masters last year. He was the first-round leader as well, and then he won that U.S. Open. I just think his profile gives him such a ceiling. I mean, he is the best driver on earth, right? He can compete up there with the distance, and if he can find accuracy, like, he has been at the Masters enough where it's humbled him to be able to play a certain way there. I mean, it was a par 67 is what he said, right? Is the way he attempts to play Augusta, and that bit him immensely. Do I have the same faith of consistency in him as even a Xander or an Åberg? I don't think so, but I mean, the ceiling, I mean, his putter, like, that's one thing that I'm a little concerned of live so far. Strokes gained stats over there, I don't know if I want to fully bank on trust in them, but his typical really trusty short game hasn't been there. So that's something that he needs to find, of course, to be really good at the Masters. So I'm not all that confident in Bryson. He has the volatility to score a ton in fantasy formats. So that's where the interest really would be.
I mean, you mentioned the 6th, but his previous 4 trips before that, 6th last year, but then cut, 46th, 34th. And, people were dunking on him. Oh, you said it was a par 67. Then you missed the cut twice. You got 46th and 34th. Shows up big last year. But at a minimum, Bryson has shown, similar to a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit here, he's shown an ability to show up big for these majors, has Bryson. 8th in the betting markets is Justin Thomas, JT, at 22-1. Crazy good start to his career, but he's 31 years old now, has not won on tour since May of 2022. Last 5 Masters for JT, cut, 8th, 21st, 4th. Now, this resurgence seems real. I don't know what you think, Skylar, but he's been playing like much closer to he was at the beginning of his career than he was struggling over the previous few years. What do you think about JT here?
It's where I really question how his public kind of sentiment will factor into his ownership, or at least interest at the Masters, right? I think he's an easy golfer to not really like. I mean, he's somebody that gets under my skin just viewing him and watching, and he just has this kind of, aura or way of kind of interacting that can bother some people. Patrick Reed-esque in a way too, but that can be good as a golfer to have a chip on your shoulder, and he clearly can compete. Now, what I'm worried about is he found himself in a chance to win for the first time, like you said, in 3 years, just his last event, the Valspar Championship, and proceeded to go bogey down the stretch when he needed to par in to compete with Victor Hovland, who went birdie. Like, that bit of dog in you is something that we need to see more out of JT. And, I personally do not trust him to win the Masters. Like, I think into this range, these are plays that can pay off well in fantasy formats with a top 5 finish, or if you'd like to bet with some kind of odds into that range. I don't know about JT winning this event. I mean, his irons have been really good lately off the tee. He's sporadic. His distance has been the one thing he has added to his game this year, which has been something that the best players in the world continue to separate in. Yeah. So that's why I think there's been more of a resurgence. I just haven't seen enough out of him, I think, to put 4 rounds together at Augusta.
Yeah, and like the whole thing on distance is like you can get hot with your putter. You can get hot with your short game. If you can't hit it 330, 340, you're not just going to show up one day and like, oh, I got hot today. I hit it 330, 340. Like, that's just not it. And that's why these guys are constantly trying to consistently add length to their games. You failed to mention that JT also looks like a thumb. So we have that. Okay. 9th choice is former winner Hideki Matsuyama at 28-1. Always seems like he has like back and neck issues, but consistently plays through them. Which reminds me, like the injuries in golf, it's really hard. There's like no reporting, or at least little reporting. And then you start to hear stuff. If somebody does talk about it, it sticks out. It's like, oh my God, Hideki has a bad back or a bad neck. What about the other 100 guys who have bad necks and bad backs who don't talk about it? And we never find out because there's no official injury report and there's very little reporting, period. But anyways, I digress. Hideki's only major championship is the Masters. He won it in 2021. Last 5 trips for Hideki here, 38th, 16th, 14th, that first. And the 13th comes in back-to-back missed cuts, Players and Valero, similar to Åberg. What do you think about Hideki, former winner here this week?
I think the rule for Hideki really is when he is on everyone's radar, it's probably the best time to stay away from Hideki. And if he is kind of coming in out of sorts where he is very far under-owned or just not selected in some of the pools, he makes for an interesting play because, again, that volatility has him on his best day beating the Schefflers and Rorys and Brysons and Rahms of the world. And on his worst day, he is missing a cut by 10 strokes. He was very bad last week at the Valero, Texas Open when I thought he had a similar spot to take advantage of. And does that make me confident or more confident in this week? Absolutely not. But he has shown up at Augusta and even major championships in the past without the best form. He was so far off the radar when he won that 2022 Masters. I don't think he had a single top 10 leading into the event. He broke every trend basically on recent form for Masters champions. And that's Hideki in a nutshell, right? He has an ability to turn it on. Now, if you're rostering him, wake up early Thursday morning because he is the one to withdraw more than anybody in this event. But as of now, there aren't the health concerns that are there, just kind of some poor play.
Okay. 10th choice is one that's going to surprise people. And it honestly surprises me, but it's always like this at the Masters and majors. It seems like Joaquin Niemann, 30-1, 26-year-old Chilean. Now, he has never finished better than 16th in a major, and he's played 22 of them. Why, Skylar? Why is Joaquin Niemann consistently in the top 10, top 15 in the betting odds for these majors?
It's really because the live bots think that Niemann's the number 1 player in the world. And one of them is including Phil Mickelson, who just recently tweeted that he says Niemann is number 1 over Scheffler in the current players right now. And to me, Niemann is doing everything you would want on live, right? He's a 2-time winner this year. He dominated last year. He mixes it up and plays over in Asia or on the European tour with wins there. But you hit the nail on the head saying, he has never done it in a major championship, never even sniffed contention, right? I mean, this is something where the Masters really probably could be, quote unquote, his best championship, where he's T16 and T22 last 2 times here. But that's not paying off the price of what you have to pay for Joaquin Niemann this week. He's a really good ball striker. I mean, has shown immense ceiling even before he left for live on the PGA Tour. But Augusta asks a different challenge. His around the green game isn't spectacular, in my opinion. Not enough that where all of these individuals who may be more interested in live kind of form are flocking to him, where I'd zoom out a little bit more on the major championship history.
Yeah, and I mean, his pedigree is pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, he was an insane amateur, like number 1 amateur in the world for a long time, and he's only 26 here right now. You can make a case that he's entering his prime. He's dominating live, etc. So I see the case for it. I was just surprised here to see him at 30-1. 11th choice is another live guy, Brooks Koepka at 33-1. This is a projection that we've been, debating and people have been yelling at us about ever since we started ETR Golf, because the narrative is he just doesn't care about any event whatsoever. All he cares about is his money and his girl and being the man, but he does care about the majors. So he's won 7 events in his career, has Brooks Koepka. He won the Turkish Airlines Open. He won the St. Jude. The other 5 wins are all majors. So the narrative is that he just gets up huge for these majors. You can't use regular data to make a projection for Brooks Koepka. And by the way, when we do projections, there is majors bumps, right? We think there is a skill in playing well in majors, and that is something that can be repeatable. So Brooks Koepka has a huge majors bump, but it's still hard to get there with him on projection if you look at standard event data. So what do you think about all the narratives around Brooks Koepka, Skylar, anything else on him?
He's really hard to digest. And personally, been following golf for a decade plus, and Brooks Koepka was one of my favorite golfers kind of coming up. He cut his teeth playing through the Korn Ferry Tour version of the European Tour, the Challenge Tour at the time. And what ended up happening was, Brooks really showed that a chip on his shoulder. Major championships, when he wasn't discussed, mattered to him, and he went out and dominated them, right? That was such a fun time to be a Brooks fan. And then now to really be on kind of the cornball, I don't care about anything else. I'm this good. I can just show up and do it, and to not do it now, right? I mean, this is now 6 majors in a row where Brooks has not finished inside the top 25. He won the Masters, he's second at the Masters, lost it to Rahm his first year on Live, and then won the next year, showing that he could still compete while over playing on Live. But again, that was 2 years ago, and the way the public ends up playing him versus his skill set. Second on Live 2 starts ago, another top 10. I mean, he's won on Live, I think 3-4 times now, but I can't do it at the prices.
Yeah. I mean, 45th, second. This is at the Masters. 45th, second. Cut, 7th, second. So, and last major championship win for Brooks was 2023 PGA. So it's been a while. He's going to be popular, similar to the Bryson thing. Brooks is going to be popular. That narrative is very, very persistent in people's head. It's hard for me to be he shows up and he suddenly tries harder, and that makes a 4-point difference in projection or a 6-point difference. I could see 1, 2, 3 points. To get there, start giving him 4, 5, 6, 7 points just because he's quote unquote more focused is a harder bridge for me to pass. But yeah. 12th choice is Jordan Spieth. Similar to JT, an insane start to his career, truly historic start to his career relative to his age. Has fallen off sharply, though. Hasn't won since April of 2022. He would tell you that the wrist has been an issue since last year. I believe it was the Heritage. He hurt his wrist last season and has been struggling since then. But I feel like his struggles went back before that. How much do you buy the Jordan Spieth wrist stuff, and what do you think about him heading into the Masters?
Well, that we have a history with Spieth, in the last year on ETR, trying to get him right, because he has been very hard with that wrist injury. Basically, you either have to apply a manual doc to, override his comments, or plug your nose and keep playing him. And that's kind of what I did last year. And it did not go well, because he really wasn't in the mix all that much. Now he gets the surgery in the off season and still has the comments that it's bothering him, wakes up in the morning that it's jammed. But tracking him and just watching kind of his scorecards, he has the birdie, bogey, birdie, eagle, double in him every 9 holes that plays super well in, I think, DFS formats, underdog pools, or even if you have some type of narrative that builds in scoring. At 30-1, it's just a course history riding so hard on that from what Spieth did, winning early on in his career. Arguably should have won in his debut, and then should have beat Danny Willey. He could have 3 green jackets. So that's really what it is. Now, Spieth, maybe because of the price, elevation, is going to be around players that, of course, project better than him, meaning he's going to be very underowned. And if we think history is as sticky as it is, which it's proven out to be, I think there is some upside in rostering him this week, but I don't have the confidence that he is going to be holding or wearing another green jacket on Sunday. I think there's still way more to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, course history is really strong, as Skylar alluded to. Won in 2015, has 5 top 5s at the Masters, does Spieth, but also he's missed the cut twice in the last 3 years. And also, Skylar mentioned like the volatility on a hole-to-hole basis. Our projections are simulation based, so we are capturing that for DraftKings, FanDuel scoring. Like if he's more likely to get eagles or more likely to get bounce backs or etc. than other players, that is captured in the sim, which flows through to our projections. All right. Oh, 3 guys that I just wanted to ask you about further down the board that I think are interesting. Russell Henley at 55 to 1. He's played 7 events this year. He's made the cut in all of them. Won the Arnold Palmer, has 4 top 10s. Russell Henley is entering the Masters as one of, I guess, the hottest, I would say. But do you think he's actually good or good enough to contend here at the Masters? What do you think about Russell Henley here, 55 to 1, Skylar?
Likeliest to be the most chalky player on the slate and in outright selections because it makes sense. Chalk isn't bad. We've talked historically about this, leaning into some of the better plays that present itself. Russell Henley has been great, not just good. He has been an exceptional golfer for 12, 18 months. He's going to be on the Ryder Cup team coming up. And that was a lot, of a jump from what people historically thought of Russell Henley. He was 4th at the Masters 2 years ago. And then last year, still T38, but he also had 2 top 10 finishes to close out major championships last year, 7th at the US Open, 5th at the Open Championship, and a win in a signature event where he tracked down Collin Morikawa, chipped in for eagle on the 16th hole to win a big-time event, a huge purse, and kind of, validate what we've all seen statistically, which is really, really good irons, an accurate player, which you probably prefer power over accuracy at Augusta, but again, it's not something where you need to be separating off the tee. Where it matters is irons in around and on the green game play. And Henley changed his career with a putter. He used to be a poor putter 4 or 5 years ago. He has now become one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. You trust him in the mix there. I think he absolutely can play his way into the final groups in a championship here for the Masters.
Yeah, and people say, oh, you can't play cheap chalk in golf. Like sims have shown that you can. If you play around with the sims on the solver, like playing around with Henley lineups, you will get to see, if you test enough stuff, you will get to see some really strong lineups, I'm sure, that come with Henley. 2 more. Sepp Straka, 80 to 1. Like Henley, unreal season so far for Sepp Straka. 1 American Express, 7 top 20s out of 10 events played for Straka. He's been in big events, not back down whatsoever. 80 to 1 here on Sepp. What do you think about that, Skylar?
I love Sepp Straka. He is just showing such a ceiling from his irons that I truly think his iron play specifically can rival Scottie Scheffler's and Collin Morikawa's. Like that ceiling he shows is so good. Ran away with it at the American Express, right? 3-time PGA Tour winner, now runner-up at the Open Championship 2 years ago. Masters last year, top 20 for him. He's somebody that I think, the best time is a low-owned, kind of under the radar Straka. We just might be at a different point in his career that he might not get there as much as we used to, just because he is so good with his ball striking. I mean, again, similar to Henley, it's more of an accuracy off the tee, and he can get really nuclear with the putter too. And that's how he scores in bunches. Like Straka, I mean, he's somebody that I would literally put against the best in the world and think he could compete against them. And at the prices that you get, it makes it very intriguing.
Okay, last guy I wanted to ask you about is Daniel Berger, because, it's hard with the injuries. Berger is 110 to 1. Now, he has been dealing with back injuries going back to 2021. At that time, I think he was like a top 15 player, took 18 months off to kind of rest his back. Now it seems like he's back in form. I mean, 2nd at Waste Management, 6 straight top 30 finishes. I was a little surprised considering the way Berger's played this year that he's at 110 to 1 here. Any thoughts on him? Do you think he's fully healthy / fully back?
Right. You have to basically think of Daniel Berger in almost 3 chapters. To your point, his early career where he was very, very good, consistent ball striker in the mix at major championships, multiple top 10s, into what makes up a lot of, if you go on long-term form, the injured version of Daniel Berger, which we're Ewing on our back end to try to correct where we think he is, which is the 2025 Daniel Berger, who is showing so many signs of resurgence. I mean, he is not, I would say, the best off the tee. I mean, somebody who I guess this year has probably been better than what we had seen, but I trust him a bunch with his irons in. He's got a really good short game, awesome on the greens. It was good to see that still show up in Texas recently, but again, getting him back born to the Southeast. He's a Florida boy where he has played well. The majors, I think the Masters T10 on debut back in 2016 was one of the better debutante performances we've seen. I don't think the price matches what Daniel Berger is right now. So I agree with your point there. And at 125 to 1, like it's a long shot for a reason. You're not asking or thinking he's actually probably going to win the tournament, a top 5, 10 bet on that type of thing. Or if you need to pick somebody later in the pools, he's showing as good a form as anybody right now.
All right. Anybody I didn't mention that you wanted to talk about before we get out of here?
Yeah, 2 golfers for me. I think one might end up getting some good amount of steam because of the live play of him historically right now. It's Sergio Garcia. You combine that with his Masters championship, right, that he had in 2017. He just really had kind of, I don't want to say like a major phobia, but coming out of that Masters, maybe it was that moment of clarity of I finally got to the mountaintop. It had taken him all the way until last year to get another top 20 on his resume for major championships. But what Sergio Garcia is known for is clinical ball striking, really good hands around the green. He won in Hong Kong earlier this year, 3rd last week in Miami. But I was pretty encouraged by, that major performance for him last year. He seems somebody, even at the age of 45, that wants to compete, get onto the Ryder Cup, get into the thick of it still. I think his incoming form with his ceiling, it interests not just me, but I think he'll be pretty trendy this week. But I think there's a lot to write home about for Sergio Garcia. And then if I'm going with one sleeper off the radar that I think can win the Masters this week, and I really think, he's somebody who he's come on to people's public radar a little bit, but he's 55, 60 to 1. He's going to be in that next or third tier of golfers this week. I think Robert McIntyre has a really good chance to win the Masters Championship. I mean, we've talked about lefties forever at this course due to the shot shape setup of a lot of the holes. McIntyre on debut at the Masters was T12. He has another 3 top 10s in major championships. T23 his second time here. And he's a way better golfer now than he was when he showed up at his Augusta as a DP World Tour rookie, basically, in 2021. Now we're seeing him win 2 times on the PGA Tour last year, including the Scottish Open in his home country, where it was an extremely emotional win for him, almost as big as a major championship. He made it seem like, competing with some of the world's best, won the RBC Canadian Open, which again was another higher profile event. I think he can get into the thick of it and not back down against really good golfers. This year, he has been under the radar in current form, in my opinion. You look at him, he has 6 top 20s, 3 top 10s if you include the DP World Tour for him. He has just, been a very good golfer and not getting the real credit kind of in the markets to what I believe is his ceiling. So I think Robert McIntyre can really steal a green jacket at some long odds this week.
So one old, which I can't face in Sergio Garcia, and one young in Robert McIntyre, which, I'm certainly in on that. But God, Garcia's like, he seems like everybody hates him. He seems like kind of a dick, and he's 45 years old. I don't know if I can face that one, Skylar.
I kind of think, honestly, Phil has shown similar life as Sergio has too. He had 3rd just a couple weeks ago on Live, top 10 last week with good iron play. Phil showed up here, 2 years ago or 3 years ago it was, and finished runner-up out of nowhere. I mean, you just trust Phil when he shows up at Augusta. So I think that battle is going to be good.
All right. We got to cut it off here at the Sergio Garcia discussion. We have to cut it off here. It is a great week. By the way, the Masters app, if you're out there and you develop the Masters app, I want to talk to you because, my God, it is like the best app in the world. I have nothing to do with it, but it's a great thing. You can watch, it's the best sweat because they show you can click on your golfer that you want to follow. Like, let's say you play Robert McIntyre, you bet Robert McIntyre, whatever. You can watch every single one of his shots on the app on demand. It's incredible. So definitely download that. But most importantly, if you've not tried out ETR Golf yet, Augusta 20 for 20% off any weekly or monthly subscription. If you do take the dive on that, be sure you get into the Discord. Ton of great discussion in the subscriber-only golf Discord in the ETR Discord. All right. I'll be back with Skylar on Wednesday afternoon for the premium show, along with Cody Main and Sam Brott. Again, we expect projections to be live sometime after tee times come out Tuesday afternoon. Skylar, when are you planning on releasing the value report for this week for subscribers? And then also tell the people where they can find you on the social machines.
Yep. So value report will get in late tonight, meaning it's going to be up on the site Tuesday morning. And then I have an AMA on the afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, where you can load in questions now in a specific Discord channel. And we'll have an hour that we'll go through in full length of these questions. It's a really valuable resource that I get to listen from our Discord members, as well as kind of hear some of that feedback on what the angles look like this week and share my thoughts. And then you can find me on Twitter at SkyHookDFS, where kind of putting out betting cards and walking through ownership for DFS for the week.
All right. Great time of year. The Masters is indeed upon us. For Skylar, producer Luke, producer Ryan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.